So, hello and welcome everyone to a new Lighting Academy session. Again, this time around with the Farron Keep environment that we have here. And yeah, before we kick things off this week, I actually have a couple of news for you guys. So, first of all, I finally have permission to monetize my content. Some of my frequent followers, they might have heard about that, but like since I work for a big company, I can't just go out and release content on the internet and just sell it and make money. And the thing is, I also don't want to sell my content. I want that all the stuff that I do is available for everyone to learn. I mean, I've been a student as well, and I know how hard it is to get decent tutorials or even like tutorials covering the things that you might want to learn or are interested in. And a lot of good stuff is always behind the paywall. And so the thing is, I don't want to have a paywall. My tutorials are always going to be free. However, it is taking me some time to do these tutorials, and some of you might remember last year my computer broke down and I didn't have the funds there instantly to basically repair the computer with the same kind of quality hardware that I had that basically broke down. So the community was like super amazing, and they started like donating hardware to me. And so the thing is, like, what I want to do is I basically want to give you guys, and many of you have been asking for it, an option to basically just like throw a couple of bucks over to me so I can continue doing these videos. I get a little bit of compensation for all my efforts, and if there is anything, I can have some funds. Like, for example, I mean, like, my computer is not the newest anymore. And I think, I'm not even sure if the card that I think it should be DirectX 12 compatible. Usually I don't care a lot about these things because I usually have hardware that is quite up to what you have these days. But like, anyways, I mean, like, at some point it would be nice to upgrade the card to still like be able to show all the newest rendering features and all that, and I might not have $1,000 laying around to do so. So of course, like, it's nice to get some support from the community, and many people, like I already mentioned, have been asking like, hey, Daedalus, man, your stuff is really good. Your content is very, very good, very helpful. Where can I give you a few bucks for all your hard work? And so far that was not possible. So I was allowed to do these videos, but I wasn't really allowed to like in any way monetize them. So now that has changed. I actually have permission now, and just so you know, there's like two things that's gonna happen. So first of all, I will even post it in the video description, but I don't have like all those fancy things like on video links that you can click and all that stuff. I need to look into that. So you will find a link now to my Patreon page that I just started making on the weekend. So if you want, you can support me via Patreon. There is not gonna be any like rewards right now or anything like that. There's also like no special programs or like exclusive content. Again, I don't want to put stuff behind a paywall. I want that everything is freely available, but I have different tiers on how you can support me. And like, I mean, decide for yourself. Decide what you think my content is worth to you, and then just like do it the way you want. What I will also post in the link descriptions now is a link to PayPal me. So if you don't want to be a patron, you can just like throw me some bucks over PayPal me, if you care about that. So I just wanted to give you a heads up for that. So there's like there's a little bit of progress there, and you know, I also have Twitter now, which I tried to dodge for many, many years. So, like just spreading the word a bit and trying to get some more visibility for this. Because in the end, like I said in all my videos before, it's about us. It's about sharing knowledge. And, to share knowledge, you also need a way to be visible for people so they know that you actually want to share all this knowledge. So yeah, I'm slowly ramping up all these things and trying to build a healthy community here. Also, people have been asking about like a Discord channel. Um, I will look into all these things. I mean, Patreon has actually the option to hook it up via Discord too, so I might just look at that. Well, so with that out of the way, let's get things started. And as always, everything that I'm gonna say in these videos, it's my experience, it's my opinion. There are so many ways of doing these things, and I'm not telling you that these are the correct ways of doing it. Those are the ways that I found that work the best for me. So please take what you want from it, be inspired by it, fool around with all these ideas and find your own way and get your own understanding on like how all these things work. And if that is working out for you, then I actually achieved my mission with these videos. So yeah, so let's get it started. Last time we started looking at the diffuse values. And if I remember correctly, I mean, I told you that we need to touch all these values because I think they're too dark. We also talked about the fact that Dark Souls apparently has very dark vegetation in the Farron Keep environment, which is like, well, okay, it can be like that. But I'm not gonna do that. I actually saw something here in the launcher. If you just look at this image here with the red tree, I mean, of course, it is not Dark Souls. It's like Cube 2, whatever. But if you look at the ivies here on the wall, I think that looks sexy. And even if the environment would be not like gray cubes and, like the stylized environment, I still think, like, if you have this Dark Souls environment, just looking at this, it looks so much more fresh and alive and nice to look at. So this is actually kind of like something that I would like to aim for with how we make the vegetation look. There's one difference. Sorry, I bring it up again. So you can see this has more depth. And that is because the mesh is built differently. It has more leaf cards that are sticking out, so it feels more three-dimensional. That is something that we don't have here. These leaf cards, they're mostly very flat, so like there's a couple of things sticking out, but this stuff, for example, like it's mostly, you can see here, it's just flat. It's not like like this stuff is built more like if you have cards for fur, like if you have a dog or a cat and you have just the hair cards. So this is a little bit more like that. Of course, it's more expensive to do it like that because you have more geometry, but I mean, that's not something that's our concern right now. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna continue balancing out these diffuse colors. And what we already did the last time is we already touched this mud texture here. So I went into the forest ground material instance and I went into this texture. And if we just turn off the alpha, you can see that I adjusted the brightness curve, which was 1 before. So just have a look at this. That's how the texture was looking before. And I just went with 0.6, which is a lot better. I would also probably go and touch the saturation and go, I don't know. I mean, like, this is just like me eyeballing things. Let's see. Yeah. Because I think that might actually just fit the whole Dark Souls theme a bit better. I'm gonna keep it at 0.85 for now, but we'll see. So, so one interesting thing that I actually talked about the last time is we have kind of like 3 values here when it comes to our textures. We have the floor tiles, which are fairly dark. We have this a bit darker material here, and then we have that one here. So we got like 3 different brightness levels. So I'm gonna start out with the texture set for the floor tiles. And I'm looking for this one here, right? So that is our diffuse texture that we have for the floor tiles. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go for the snipping tool. And I'm just gonna take this whole thing, copy, whoops, and oh, why, wait a second. Usually when you hit like new file, it just like, yeah, exactly, takes the size from what you had in your snipping tool, which is quite nice. So we don't need the brush palette. So what we do need though is we need the histogram in the expanded view so we can see the stuff down here. And then we go to luminosity and you can see we are on 71. And you might remember last time I said that it is extremely important that you define like a certain range for your texture sets for your game, because you need to make sure that that things work in terms of like, you know, if you say black in my game is a luminosity value of 50, and then someone makes something that is not supposed to be black and it's like 45, then that completely screws the whole range of the game, because this guy wants his stuff to be not black. And it has 45, which is obviously, it is not black. If you look at it in Photoshop, this value of 45 is not going to look like black. It's going to look like black in the engine, with the lighting and the shadows and the tone mapping. But it's important that you specify these ranges, because otherwise people are just going to use wrong values, and then it just screws with your palette that you have decided on. Also, if you make stuff too bright, you will also get issues. You will get like way too much bloom. You will get issues with like auto exposure and things like that. And if you, for example, look at the physical color of snow, it's not white. I mean, snow is actually gray. If you take like a scan, I mean, scanning snow is difficult because of all the ice crystals and the scattering and the reflectivity and all that. So it is very hard to scan it, but I mean, you can work around certain tricks there if you have the right equipment. And if you look at some really like properly calibrated textures of snow, they are not white. They are a very light gray. Because there basically is nothing that really is white. It just looks like that because of the relationship to everything else. And that's very important to know. So again, we're gonna define a nice range. So usually I'll try to not go below a median of 50 for the darkest stuff that I have in the scene. And I also try to not go above 230, 40 in RGB when it comes to the white points. So now we got this on 70, which is actually very, very dark. Very dark. So I said it the last time, what we can do is we can just add a brightness contrast slider. I'm gonna drag this over here as well so you can see it. And now we can just slide the brightness up until we reach like 107 or something like that. And I think that's a lot better. There's a little bit of a problem with these textures though, and you can see they are all super noisy. I think it's that moss function that was being used in Substance, but it's like, I mean, you don't see it a lot in the engine later on, but I do think that some of that stuff is extremely noisy. Personally, I don't like that. That's my personal opinion. But again, that's and you know, like I'm saying this because the noise gets worse if we, you know, like this way here, yeah, the noise is there, but it's like a little bit hidden by the darkness, and like this way you just see it so much more. So what we're gonna do is I'm not gonna export all these textures over. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use this as a reference when I tweak the texture in the engine. So I'm gonna go with brightness 60, and that is 104, and that is what I'm gonna use for the darkest stone material that we have. What I'm gonna do is, I'm just gonna take my Photoshop like this, and I'm just gonna move it over to my other screen that, that I notice is not calibrated like my main screen. So actually the texture is a little bit brighter on the other screen than it should be. But we will be able to work with this. So first of all, we go again here into the brightness curve, and let's start out crazy with 0.75, for example, and see what happens. And that is actually already fairly that's fairly good. So see, like this stuff is just like experience. You know, I mean, like I've been doing these things for many years, and that is why I kind of like have the feeling that this value could be the right one, and then you can see already that I'm very close to what I wanted to do. And that is not me being a magician or picking values before and then just doing it. No, I just got lucky right now. But you can also see it lifts the texture in a nicer way with the curve. So you can see overall, it almost seemed that when I did this in Photoshop here, that it was like also increasing some sort of contrast slightly. It was a bit weird. So this one here in Unreal, it looks softer, which is a lot better. And you can also see how these points here, they're not blowing out as much. So what we can do actually is we can just go in the snipping tool, and we can just grab this thing again. Let's just go back to Photoshop. And we're just gonna paste it on top, and now you can see we have a median of 98, which is actually very close to the 104 that we had decided for. So that's actually already pretty precise. I mean, what we can do is we can just do like the 0.75 and make 0.72. And there was a tiny little bit more. So I think now we should be, you know what, let's just make like 0.7 just for having it like proper values. So now we probably have like the luminosity of 104 on this texture. So now you can already see how much brighter this is in comparison to what we had before. But if we look at this now, these two, they match better. This just looks off now. And we're just gonna do this for the other textures as well. And we're just gonna use 0.7 because we just assume that, you know, the textures are balanced the same. So if we just go in here, you will not see me doing this now, but we will. You will see what's changing here. So I just go in 0.7. All right. So now we're gonna go for this one. All right. That is nice. Very nice. And like I described, this will help us so much more with like bounces and with brightnesses. And it's like, you know, if your textures are too dark, you just have to crank up the light intensities a lot more, because again, the dark material colors, they will absorb more light, and so it basically swallows and eats away all the lighting that you're gonna add to the scene, and it makes it so much harder to achieve like a proper contrast ratio of dark spots versus bright spots and all these kind of things. So it is tricky, and that is why diffuse balancing is one of the most important things, I believe, that you should take care of. So now that we have those parts, let's start with the second one, which is kind of like this stuff here, the stairs, but it's also the pillars. There's like, you can see there's like some stuff is a little bit in between. I mean, these stairs, they're not as dark as these pillars, but they're also darker than the kind of like main material. So, I mean, you know, let's just start with the pillars and let's have a look what is going on here. So this is our diffuse texture here. Again, very dark. And the pillars now, they should be, well, yeah, that's this. The pillars should be even brighter than the floor tiles that we just did. So I'm just gonna go into Photoshop here. Just gonna paste this. I'm gonna scale it up a little so we don't get like pixels on the side that are like completely different color wise. So now you can see that these pillars are actually even darker than what we had with the original texture that was 71. And these pillars, they're actually 68, so they're even darker than that, which is pretty crazy if you think about it. So let's just add our brightness slider again and bring him up and bring him up. And I think I want to go to like kind of like this value, like 110, something like that. And I'm just gonna drag it over for my visual guide now. And I'm actually gonna go with 0.68. And we can already see how this blends way better. And I'm gonna do my second test here again. Just gonna grab this. And now it's 104. So I'm actually just gonna go in and do 0.6. I'm quickly gonna grab it again because I really want to make sure that I'm not too off. So I can kind of like keep my ratio between the colors. Do that. So now it's 116. And I actually will go with this value, 0.63. I will just bring it a little bit down. Yeah. So that's what I'm gonna use on those ones. All right. Now I want to look at the main brick wall. And after the main brick wall, we need to look at all those like individual pieces here that we have in between then, you know, like the stairs and all those things, because they are not using this tiling brick wall texture that we have here. And we just need to, like, you know, go through all that and find nice ways of working here. So this is our brick wall albedo texture that we have here. Oops. And again, I'm just gonna grab it. And with this one, I want to be around 125 because that's like the value that I said. Like it's good to be around that. It's below medium gray, so it is a bit darker, but it still gives us some range to work with. So again, let's just paste that and scale it a bit so we don't get like white pixels affecting the calculation. And now we can see this one is 97, so it's already brighter than the others. But, well, I mean, still not there. We're just gonna do that. And we're gonna go up a bit until we get like... yeah, something like this. And again, just gonna use it as my guideline here. Oh no. Oh no, oh no, oh no. Okay, now I have a problem here. Shit. Okay, so this is not a texture. This is a substance graph. Right. I don't know how you... yeah. Okay, that is actually a little bit bad because, like, I mean, I don't know how do I change this? Like, you know, I can't adjust these values here because it's not a texture. I have actually never worked with substance in Unreal. I don't know the integration. So let's just open this thing maybe. Yeah. Yeah, I want to export this thing as a texture and just use it as a texture. I don't want to use it as a substance. That is a little bit unfortunate now. And I'm just like looking through the textures here, but like you can see these are all these unique textures. But because we got the same thing here with the plaster too, you know, like I don't want this to be to look like this. I'm trying to figure out if there's any way to like export this out into a texture. So, okay, so this is like, again, this is like a shout out now to my community because I will probably not dig into this further right now. So please, if you just know a super simple way of how I can turn this into a texture, please let me know in the comments and I will update it for the next video. And I will work on this texture too, because this is like something that I need to do. I need to touch this. And here you can see I can export it, but I don't want to export the graph. I want to turn this into a texture. Yeah, or like, you know, if I could at least hook up the parameters from Substance to say like, uh, you know, make the brightness adjustable or something like that. Uh, can I asset actions export? Let's try this. Export the file. Let's see. Shit. Yeah, Unreal Text Object is not what I want. Unreal Object Text neither. I want to export this as a TGA. That is very unfortunate. Hmm. Yeah. Okay. Well, then we sadly have to live with the wrong colors. I'm sorry, but I have no influence on that, and I think the only thing that will work is for me opening the substance file inside a substance and then tweak it the way I want, and then like basically re-export it or something like that. But again, maybe you guys have some more ideas on that that would help me. That would obviously be highly appreciated because I mean I don't want to stick with this color. We need to touch it, otherwise we will not get the full thing the way it's supposed to be. So yeah. Anyways, what we need to do is what we could actually do is quite easy. We can just go into our textures here. And now we can just open every albedo here and try to bring it in range, because then we have at least those ones done. Those are the ones that are baked down from assets. So I can touch them. So I can touch this one and you know, this one. And I'm just like gonna go through all these. The column was already touched by me exactly. We can go in this one, this one, here. Yeah, you can see this is kind of like the style that all these textures were done. It's like they all share the same kind of noisiness. So at least that's consistent. um, but I don't know. To me, I think it's too much noise. That is my opinion here. I wonder what that black stuff is. But we'll see. So yeah. So now we got that. And those are all the remaining unique textures that we have. Just gonna move this out of the way quickly. And I just want to. Oh, yeah. So see, like this is something that you should never do. Because metal is not black. That is something. I mean, this will never look the way it's supposed to. Um, and I will fix that quickly, because it's like, you know, even though this is like we need to brighten this up, we need to fix this texture. So I'm just gonna, in case you were wondering, you can just like go into asset actions, export, and now you can see I can export it as a TGA. Yeah, just gonna put it in here. And I'm gonna open it. Here we are. All right. So that is, I mean, you can see, right? The median is not there, and this stuff, the black stuff, is not really good. So what can we do? I mean, first of all, we should just brighten it up. And since we got like some padding here, you know, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take this, and I have like 1 pixel feathering, and I'm just gonna make like some quick selections here. You know, just quick and dirty, but not in a way that is kind of like messing with other things too much. So we got this one, and now we're gonna take this stuff up here. All right. So, what are we gonna do with you? First of all, I'm gonna use the levels, and as you can see, it was already added to my mask. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna do this, right? Because like, you know, I don't even want to touch too much here, but I'm basically just raising the color. And now what we can do, or what we should do, is let's figure that out quickly. Iron. Let's go here. Doop, 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 doop. Oh. So this one is pretty good one. So I just googled iron base color value, and now you gotta get this one here. And that is really, really nice because it gives you physical plausible values here, right? In this chart. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna quickly cut this out, and just gonna drop this into a new file, and I'm gonna color pick it. So now you know this is my value for iron. Yeah. So it's actually a very, very light color. It is 196, 199, 199. That is not very dark at all. And that is the problem that we often have, is that people make their metals way too dark. So we just leave it like that, and we're just gonna remember that we are around this value. So if we're gonna pick, whoopsala, what I'm gonna do is I hold Control Shift Alt and press E, and you can see it just merges everything into like a new layer. And then I just pick this, and you can see that we are still not on the value for iron actually, which yeah, is a lot brighter. So now comes the interesting thing. I probably not gonna make it too much brighter, just like a tiny little bit. Maybe like this. A tiny little bit more. Whoops, not that one. That. And now what I want is I actually let me see. Yeah, I mean, you know, like sometimes I just like wanna. Of course, you should go like on a proper texturing site or something like that. But let's look at this one. I hope it's not like, yeah, see, it's this corrugated one that's not good because people don't have that in fantasy universes. They don't have like iron like that. Yeah. I want something proper, like flat and just like some noisiness here. Come on, load. Yeah, this one is actually not so bad. So, because I just want to have some grunge to break this boring thing up, right? Gonna make this big. I'm just gonna copy. And I mean, again, obviously, you should go to like textures.com and get something proper. But I don't care too much right now since we're just like trying to, you know, just improve this a little bit. And it's more about the theory behind this than like, you know, me actually making something here that can be shipped also from a legal perspective. That's not what we're about to do here. Oops. So, and now we're just gonna set this to screen. And as you can see, we're just gonna get this nice structure here, right? And then we hold Alt and we click into this mask and we just hold Control A, Control C, and we click on the image here back again. And now if we just click down here to make a new mask and we Alt click into the white one again, we can just like Control V and paste our mask in here. So now we got that. And now if I'm gonna hold Control, Shift, Alt, and E again, I get the merged result, and I can just quickly color pick this here, and I can see that we're actually too bright now. And that is fine. Because what we will do is we will basically just remove this one again, go into our, that happened because of the lighten, we can just like drag this down a bit more, like this. So, and this will give us a lot better base for our, well, our metal. And since we're already here, you can still see that our median of the texture is still pretty bad. And now we touched on the metal. So what we're gonna do is actually, I'm gonna make a new levels adjustment. I'm gonna click into this one, I'm gonna paste this one in again, but now I hit Control I to invert it. Because now what I wanna do is, just if you look at this, is now I just touch everything else that's not the metal. Right? So now what we're gonna do is we just take the middle slider here and move it to the left. So we get something along these lines here, which is like a median of 126 now in luminosity. And that is a lot better because we still have dark values here. Like here, you know, is the part where the wood is burned. But everything else, we got it a lot nicer now. So, let's see if we actually have something that is our metallic texture. Because obviously all of the stuff that we just did, it does nothing if we don't really have a metallic texture here. Can I click the torch? Ah. So let's look quickly at this. So this is like also something where I'm like, you know, the torch is like not using any of these features with like all the, you know, all this stuff here. Like some crazy tint and like some moss and all that. It's not even using that. And as you can see, we don't really add reflection. Yes, so that one should be the correct one here. So I'm just like trying to figure out if we have like a metal texture, so we can actually make this work. Because without metal texture, we don't need any of that. So we got our AO. Actually, it looks kind of like Blizzard style here. It's more like a mixture of AO and cavity map. This one, I guess, is the metal mask, which is weird. I think it should be corroded, but actually I think it doesn't really work that well. So this is probably basically like, you know, like everything here is like full metal, and the rest is like kind of like not. So what I'm gonna do with this channel, I'm gonna export this texture as well. Yep. So what I'm gonna do is basically, I'm gonna do something that usually people don't do a lot, and you also should be careful with it, which is like I'm gonna muddy up the metalness texture. What I mean by that is basically, you know, we don't really have any proper color information in this metal part of the torch. It's just not there. Like, basically, if we look at this here, you know, you can see the green stuff, and then you can see the brown stuff. And the green stuff would kind of like be where the metal is corroded, and the brown stuff would be where the metal is bare. And here you have some sort of separation. If you look at this, though, there is no like if metal corrodes, it doesn't get black. So this is just like, it doesn't look like metal with corrosion at all. So what I'm gonna do is basically, I'm gonna say like, these chipped away parts, they are like pure metal, and the black stuff, which we actually now turned into like a proper texture, it's gonna be almost metal, but just a tiny little bit less, because there's like a slight layer of corrosion on top of it. And yeah, I think that way we can make it work a little bit better. So I'm just gonna go in here, and I'm gonna go into this one. And basically what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do the same thing as I did before with the adjustments. I go into levels, and I raise the black point. So I keep the white point, and now I'm at 50% here. So that means I would get 50% metalness. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring this all the way up to here, so it's just a tiny little difference. So it's almost fully metallic. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do now. And the problem here is actually that I need to undo the levels, and I need to tricks a bit. So first of all, I need to make a new layer, and I'm gonna give this layer a mask. I'm gonna take this mask from here. Just gonna paste it quickly. I mean, I could have, so. And now that I have this mask in here, I can select it like this. Yeah. And if I go into the green channel here, I have this selected now, and it's only gonna affect, because I don't want to turn all the other stuff into metals, right? So I have to isolate this area. And now I'm gonna go into the levels. Wait, what? Are you fucking kidding me? Okay, it doesn't want to do that. It doesn't matter. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna just take the green channel, yeah? Switch back to RGB. We're gonna make a new layer. We're gonna paste the green channel in here, and now we're gonna use the selection. We go to image, adjustment, levels. Now it works. And now we're just gonna do this, the same thing again, basically, kind of like this. Yeah. Control D to deselect. Control A to select the whole thing again. And now I'm just gonna copy that one, delete this. go into the channel, screen channel, and just paste this in here. So now we just have this updated metallic channel. And we're just gonna save it. And that one, we're just gonna save as TGA. And we're just gonna take that one, save, yes. All right, we don't need alpha channel. So now if I re-import this one, and I'm gonna pick this one here. So I'm gonna get this. And I'm gonna re-import the reflection as well. So now you can see this is how our torch looks like, yeah? So now we got like some more metal definition, and if I just go into lit, I mean, you can see that it also feels a bit more metallic now, because of us having a more metal value now. See here. So, of course, you could texture that one a bit more. You will not see a lot from that. And actually, it is a little bit too bright now. But I think it's still better than before. And we can still kind of like, you know, go in here and just take this part and make it a bit darker again. Kind of like this. Save as. Because again, like corroded iron would be darker. Absolutely. It's not as bright as the clean one. That is for sure. So, yeah. So this is a lot better. Yeah. Yeah. This looks more like some iron. And you can see here the brighter parts. But I mean, again, this is not overly detailed anyways. So let's just say that's enough. All right, now we go back into our base color view. And we gonna continue to look at some of these textures here. So let's start with the archway, which is pretty much this one over here. And now I'm kind of like going into some eyeballing stuff, you know, because obviously I mean, I know these kind of things quite well. I've been working quite a lot on doing like base color adjustments and so on. So I can also eyeball a lot of things fairly well. So we're gonna take this one, and then we have this beam. Actually don't know what type of beam that is, so like let's make it extreme and maybe it pops up here or somewhere. Yeah, well, see. So I would go with 0.6 here as well. Kind of like this. That looks extremely dark as well. So we're just gonna go, whoops. All right. That is the clay pots. So I guess it's probably this one. And again, I do just like to double check on certain values. Because like sometimes your eyes are also tricking you, you know, like, and you think like it doesn't look that dark, but now that I look at it, it actually is quite dark. It is like 84, and I think we should be around here, 108. I think that is a better value for that one. So let's go in and do like 0.7 maybe first. Let's see. Now if we compare this, we're already pretty good. We can see that this one feels a little bit more desaturated, which is actually good. So we just go into saturation and we do 0.9. Yeah. I think that's better. Yes, definitely. So you can see also these ones, they're like, I mean, this is just like crazy noise down here and it's like very, very dark. So I think we should look at these two. So we got some cloth low, and it almost looks like this is cloth low. Why is this cloth and not clay? But, aha, yeah, okay, well, whatever. So, okay, I'm just gonna go into the brightness curve, and I'm gonna go with 0.7 for now. Because right now, I'm basically just trying to go more in line with this one here, right? So 0.68. Yeah, and now I go down with the saturation to 0.9. Yeah, I think that should be enough for now. We'll see. Maybe we need to touch it later again. So now we got this one. It's called hand railing. I assume that this one will be somewhere here. Yes. So this one is an interesting one because you can see that the top part is quite bright and the lower part is quite dark. And this dark part should actually have a similar brightness to the floor tiles here. But if I would just touch the whole texture, we will get an overly bright top part. Like so. And now this one actually sticks out quite a lot, and we don't want that. So this texture, gonna put it to 0.9 brightness curve. Because I don't wanna like edit this in Photoshop again. I mean, this is what you would do, right? You would just select the dark parts in the texture and just brighten the dark parts and keep the rest the way it is. But I think like, yeah, it's kind of okay for now. I'm not sure if we actually have touched that one, but we'll see. What is that? What is the mound? Or mound? Like, I don't even know how to pronounce it. What is it? Yeah, I really have no idea. But it looks very dark as well, so I'm just gonna go with 0.7 and see what happens. I think that's better. Oh! Is it this one? Yeah, it's this one, I think. Yeah. I think 0.7 is better. It also makes the metal brighter, which is good because the metal was very dark before. Now we have this one, and it's called column ornate. Let's do something extreme to see where it is. That one. Okay. So that one is actually similar to this one, And this one, we use 0.63. So I'm gonna try 0.63 on this one too. All right. The next one is a side bricks. That's what it's called. Not yet totally sure what that one is. But it might actually be like some of these like little single bricks up here or something like that. I don't know. Let's see if we do like 0.63 as well. Ah, nice one. Yeah. Yep. That's actually good. Because that's what we want. You can see like this is the range that we have on these ones, and this one is the same, and these ones are darker here, the pillars. So that's kind of like the thing, and we want basically this tiling texture. We want it to have this brightness in the end as well. We want all these things to be like of this brightness, and then we have like these darker highlights here. So that is actually pretty much perfect right now here. Because you can see we are getting the separation again. So the stairs, yes. The stairs are gonna be more like this one, I think. So let's just see. I'm gonna go with 0.65. Yeah, I'm gonna go 0.7. Because, you know, we want the stairs to be more like these dark pillars and not like the bright ones. I think 0.7 is kind of like a good value in between. All right. So now those actually were the textures that I'm gonna desaturate this a little bit. This one here, I'm gonna go to 0.9. Yeah. All right. So we're just gonna save them all. It's making me a tiny little bit sad actually that I cannot adjust the base brick texture because it's a substance file. Because it, as you can see once I close this, it really sticks out. So everything that sticks out right now is the stuff that I basically can't really adjust because it's a substance texture. Same goes for that stuff up here. Those are also the substance textures. But now what we can do is we can actually quickly look at these ones here. Just gonna double check here. How many ivy textures do we have? Well, not so many. So the first thing that I notice actually, and I'm not sure if the ivies have that, but the trees actually have it. You can see it. And that looks like the speed tree color variation to me. The funny thing is, like, I really don't want to hate on anyone here, but I don't like it at all. There was just a new video released by Quixel where they show how to make a color variation for grass inside of Unreal. And I think it's actually Victor doing it. And I'm not a big fan of it. And the reason is the speed tree node makes shit purple and blue and stuff like that. You can, if you want to use the speed tree color variation, you can only use super tiny little values, because if you go too high in the value, because you might want to have more variation, it actually gets worse because it starts tinting stuff like yellow and blue, and it just goes completely nuts. Personally, what I actually like to do is, for a real color variation, is I make a texture that has, like, for example, what you can do is you basically just, you go into like a Google image search and you just type like for like random image of like grass noise or something like that, you know. Let's just say like whoopsala. Grass noise. I don't even know if you get something great now. It doesn't actually really look at this. Yes, exactly. So you just take this texture basically, or this texture, or this texture, or like, it doesn't actually really matter, you know. So let's take this one, and what you're basically gonna do is you make a file that only has like 32 by 32 pixels, and then you basically try to scale that into this kind of like texture, so you get a super low res pixel noise that has different colors in it, and it will be something more like this in the end, yeah, but way more pixelated, and you can have also different colors. And then what you're gonna do is you basically use this texture in world space, and you tile it in world space over the whole world, and you multiply it with the diffuse color, or with the base color of your vegetation. And that way you get randomized colors based on world space, based on this texture, and you can actually say what type of colors you want. And then it doesn't really get like weird, you know. So we can actually do that if you like for the next video, but for now we're just gonna clean up a bit more. So sorry, yep, ivies first. So again, like, what I would like to do is I would like to make this vegetation a bit more lush, a bit more nice to look at. So what I do like, for example, is like all this here. This is like very nice because we got like variation in it, and the textures actually, they, you know, they're not bad to look at. So let's Google for some reference and say like ivy leaf. So, and now you can see that some of them are very dark, and that's true. However, I think it is a lot more easy to go with something, let's say brightness wise, something like this, or like that's actually the same one, just brighter. So, you know, like, let's not go with like a dark leaf like this, because it's really hard to make them look good and have them work. I think we also need to be careful that we don't have a leaf that is like backlit. Because that's also not how it works. I think this might actually be quite a nice example for a leaf color. So what we will do is we're just gonna copy this one. We're gonna bring it into our Photoshop. Oops. All right. And we can now basically just turn this into like a new layer, add like an empty layer below it, double click this one, and now we can slide away the black here, like this. That's enough. So now we're just gonna like pick a value like here, in like, you know, it's like this is very bright, this is very dark. We're just gonna pick like a value in the center. We go to the layer below, and we just gonna color fill this. And now I'm gonna use my command again to make this all into one thing. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use, if I find it, blur average, and it just averages out all the colors, and that is kind of like the color. And now you can see that we actually have quite a big problem, which is this one here. That's the median of 51. And that is very, very, very dark. And that is because this image here, it's not the base color. It has like tons of information. So what I actually want to do is I didn't want to go necessarily for the brightness, but I want the kind of color that I want to have. And now I'm gonna go into levels, and I'm just gonna wait a second. Yeah, no, it's right. Yeah, and now I'm just gonna go and I'm gonna bring this quite a lot up just to see where I kind of like need to be. I'm just gonna put this over again. And again, like this is not about copying values one-to-one right now. For this one, it's more like to get a feel for where I might need to end up with this. So there's already some stuff that has been going on here. So you can see the saturation has been reduced. So now it's more saturated. The RGB curve has been altered as well. So I think that Benjamin was already like working on this scene to adjust the texture a little bit more to his likings. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go in and go with 0.7 again. Ooh, come on. Yes. So this already, it's a lot better. Saturation wise, I might try 0.85. Let's see. And now what I can see here is that there's probably some stuff going on. Yeah, see that? So there's already like some, and there's even emissive in it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn off all these parameters for now that are messing with this thing here. And already you can see this is like a lot more let's call it inviting. And this is interesting. If I do this, you can see what we want here is we want super fresh green, kind of, because that is like what you would get. I'm actually gonna go 0.95. Gonna give it back some saturation. All right. The thing here now is that the brown leaves, they just stick out. They are way too brown and too saturated. So they should be lowered, actually. But that is something that we don't really have an impact, influence on right now. So that's already better. There's another thing where I'm kind of like, you know, we might need to touch the shader as well here, because we got, this is all right. We got the subsurface color being subsurface color tint, subsurface desaturation. Let's see. So we got the albedo, and we multiply the albedo by the subsurface tint, and we desaturate it, and we feed all of that into the color. We have our opacity and the mask. Okay, so So we kind of like want to get like more of this effect here, you know, like it's tricky. We need to see that we can tweak the shader in a way that we kind of like don't screw too much with the overall behavior here. So what we kind of want is we want this stuff here, but maybe not as neon. You can see how we desaturate this and it gets crazy. We're not gonna do that. But you can see here, this is already like actually not too bad. So we're just gonna bring in a little bit here. And there's a funny thing that you can see here, like this makes it look flat. And that is actually the opacity and the subsurface color. So what you actually want is, if you have this one here, we should actually multiply it with the subsurface color. Let's do that. That is the ambient occlusion. Ambient occlusion, yep. And we're just gonna take the subsurface color and we multiply them. Because the thing is, the subsurface color, it also works like a sort of thickness. So you wanna like mask certain things out in the subsurface color so the leaf appears thicker. And since we got these gradients from the AO, we might actually get something better from this. And maybe we just completely destroy the trees now. I don't know. We'll see. And it actually just made a tiny difference. But if I would now power this, we could actually get a lot more out of this. But I tell you, I've worked with like vegetation shading quite a bit, and it is a complex topic. And you really want to invest in a good setup for your shaders to make it look good and work nicely. All right. So I can see that we've already been on this session for more than an hour. Sadly, I'm still not fully done. So what's going on here? That is very interesting. Okay, now it gets crazy. Something interesting has happened here. Okay, we can only get red subsurface or none. Bum, 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 bum. We don't need this desaturation anyways. That is funky. I just started multiplying the subsurface color with the ambient occlusion to get some additional darkness, and now it kind of like did a hue shift on all the colors I was picking. That's and still not gone. That's very interesting. If I preview this node here, yeah, of course there's nothing in here. We're gonna fix that. the next time. Yeah, okay, that's very unfortunate. I'm gonna look at that. That is really weird. I haven't seen that before. Excuse me. Very, very interesting. Anyways, so what I just want to do is I just gonna quickly make the trees a bit brighter, so now you can see it's working again, and it's way too crazy. So let's do something like this for now. And you can already see that we get like some more fresh stuff here. But again, I mean, we need to tweak this all through. It's not just like you know, one thing and then it's gonna be good. All right. And we also might want to make them a tiny little bit darker again, but push the saturation. So this is then all like a little bit of fine tweaking. So let's have a look at this one. Can be brighter too. And now I'm just like trying to find the tree. Aha. So, alright. Leaves instance, leaves mod. Yeppa doopsh. It's gonna remove this. We're gonna remove the missive strength. And we got the color variation here. So now look what happens if I go up here. And the color variation. Do you see that? So if I put it to 0.5, look what happens. And this is kind of like, I mean, like, why would I want that? So the thing is, like, even if you do these super low values, it's kind of like getting weird. So this is kind of okay. You can see there's a slight variation now. And it's not doing weird stuff. But before that, you could see that we actually had like a purple tree. So, but anyways, you can see that we actually have a different color here for the vegetation. So, and also if I look at the leaves, this is these are beech leaves, and those textures they don't look like that. This is like way too dark. So first of all, we're just gonna reset all this. Okay, so this is how the initial texture looks like. It's a bit much too, I would say. So let's go into our brightness curve, and we actually gonna go 0.9, and with the saturation we're gonna go 0.75, and then let's just see if we can. I don't want to make them. Sorry, I'm gonna move this away so I can just see it better. I don't want to make them too dark. The RGB curve is kind of like a contrast thingy. So this is the opacity I'm tweaking now. Some of that stuff is a bit weird here. All right. So, and I'm gonna desaturate them a tiny little bit more. All right. And the subsurface is fine like that. Although it should be a tiny little bit more fresh. Yeah, I mean, so we need to look at this stuff a little bit more in detail because my time is slowly running out. So what we're gonna do now is we're just gonna do a quick test bake with the improved texture values to just see what we're gonna get. But then there's also another thing. Let me quickly just save everything and kick off the bake. And there's still tons of stuff in the scene that we need to clean up. So for example, you can see that there's like tons of lights. And those lights, they are basically meant to fake things that are not really there. But we will build these things in different ways. So we will actually get it back. So now those are the settings and we're good with those. That's okay. We're gonna do the medium and we're just gonna say build only. The lighting. All right, and that's the last thing that we're gonna do for today, and then we're good. All right. So quickly, just to see, like you can see here that there is quite a few light sources doing like blue light, and that blue light was to basically fake indirect lighting from the sky. So you would get like this bluish skylight kind of thing. The problem with the scene though was that it was extremely brown, yellow, orange, right, before. And like where would the blue bounce come from? There was just no blue sky at all, so you would never get the blue bounce. Now we actually have a blue sky. So we will try to use this sky to our advantage and try to get like some nice bounce lighting in. And we will basically remove all those fake lights because we can also see here, like this corner is incredibly dark, right? And the reason why that corner is so incredibly dark is because we had also bad values for our textures. And that is the thing that makes me sad with the tiling texture, because we still have quite a few bad values here. It's a lot better than it was before, but we still have quite a few bad values. And so it's not gonna completely fix this corner. We also haven't touched some of these things here. I think that was actually one of the other textures that I touched, but you know, I'm not really getting towards this result here right now. So we just need to see how we want to progress further with that and what else we can touch. There's also a couple of things like here. I think those are all still substance textures, and we still got like this thing here, which is like, yeah, So that's the dirt ground. And you can see this thing is basically like a coal or something like that. That's what you would use. As so dark, and I sadly can't touch it. I have like no influence on this one now. So we just have to deal with the fact that it looks like this. We also have some funky things going on here without trees. So we need to see about that. I'm actually unsure. Did I? Yeah, so the trees are all baked right now. Which is obviously taking quite a bit of performance, or it's taking quite a bit of time to build these trees. So actually, like when I started testing with this scene, I had a few setups running where I was just basically having the trees dynamic. I mean, you know, it's not a lot. There's like the fog is not there, and we have like tons of broken lighting. But I don't know. I think you can slowly start seeing that we're working towards something that actually works better for the scene. Also from like not necessarily from an artistic perspective just yet, but yeah, most definitely from a technical perspective, because that's just the base, you know. That's just the base for everything you want to do. You always want to have the technical part right, and then you can argue about like the artistic side, because the big problem is like sometimes, you know, people confuse things that are technical nature versus like artistic nature. And the thing is, you can always argue about taste, which like art to a certain extent is taste. Of course there are rules, you know, like that's true. But you might like, even if something follows artistical rules, you can still say like I dislike it. But when it comes to the technical stuff, you can't really do that, because if it's just wrong, it's wrong, because it's defined by numbers and physics and things like that. And I mean, of course, like remember with the old session where I said that the relationship of the sky brightness was not really nicely matching the relationship of the darkness in here, or the brightness, the visibility inside the shadowed areas. And of course you can say like, well, my game follows this art style and I don't need that. Fair enough. Still though, even Overwatch just follows certain guidelines that are from a technical nature, and they just make a pleasing image work better, or like well, they make an image work better, and automatically that makes the image kind of like more pleasing to look at. And still, it's not the same as like this stuff. Like Overwatch would never use such high contrasts, but still the technical foundations, they have to be there, and they can be evaluated well, based on that technical knowledge. So having that right, no matter what art style you do, no matter what type of game you build, having those things right will always help you. And one of those parts is texture balancing. It's extremely vital and important. So I'm running out of stupid things to say for now, so I'm just gonna quickly pause my recording, and I'm gonna come back once the bake is done, so we can quickly have a look at it and just close off the video. So, well, yeah, see you in just a tiny little bit. Cheers. All right, so the bake is done now. There's a lot of data, so it's like still updating things. And I mean, you can see a couple of things here. Like, for example, we got some like pretty strong color bounces now, so we might need to see if we want to keep that stuff. We got all the blue light here. You can also see that we got a lot more saturation in our vegetation. And you can also see that I have this weird issue back. Do you see that here? That the shadows are fading in and out. There's a, I mean, like, even here, you know, like there's some weird stuff going on that is not going on in this view mode. I'm actually, I've had stuff like this happening when moving projects to new engine versions. So, you know, like this, it shouldn't be like that. So now it actually looks like, because like sometimes, you know, it just like takes ages with the texture streaming and all that until everything is just there after baking. So, but you can see like this is definitely weird here. So I need to double check, like maybe I need to delete the sunlight. Sometimes that helps, you know, like deleting the sun and re-adding it, because you can see that there's like it looks like a fuck up with the cascaded shadow maps. So see how the shadows are fading in there? And they shouldn't, because the shadows should actually be here in the bake. So see, like even now the shadows are fading in and out. And also the weird thing is, like, here you can see everything looks the same, right? Let's do detail lighting. And I mean, like, huh? And they're static. You know, they're not like dynamic or anything. So, you know, let's try one thing quickly. Update all the reflection captures. Also, it's not doing it. So there's there are a couple of weird things that we will look at, and we will basically just like fix the scene and debug all those things, because I mean this is like super weird. If I like move it, it's not gonna look the way it should either, because it's now falling back to the samples. But I'm kind of like curious on why are the samples looking like this. So this doesn't actually look wrong. So these look actually right. We're gonna look at that, because again, like when I was looking at the scene in the beginning, I also had several issues where I had to delete the content and basically drag it back into the map again, like, you know, super weird stuff basically. That made no real sense. There's also one thing that we can try, is we can basically later on we say force no pre-computed lighting, and we build it so we clean the whole cache and all that. So this is actually great that we're having these issues, because then we can solve them together and we can fight all these problems. But if we just look at this, I think we can already see that we also get some better values in here. And detail lighting, you know, I think if we just look at all this, we get a lot more information than we actually did in the beginning. So yes, we're gonna continue working with that. We're gonna continue to make this scene look great. Here, do you see the shadow issue? See this? So that is, there's something really, really wrong. Oh, let's have a quick look. Maybe we can just see. So we are on stationary. We have this. That's all good. Cast static shadow is turned on. So see, this is like really, really weird now. And I think last time what I actually did, and that was like quite hilarious. Let's see if it happens again this time. So see, I'm moving like away. The shadow goes away back there. And now, last time I checked dynamic indirect lighting. Boop. Do you see? And now it basically just reset the sun to be, see, now it's like saying all these unbuilt objects. So now the shadows are not going away, but now it's like fully using dynamic shadows. So for some weird reason, the sun doesn't bake static shadows right now. And we'll figure out why that is. See, now this looks a lot more like workable. Here, yes. So, but we still have these issues of stuff having like different colors and all that. And that's what we're gonna fix, that's what we're gonna look at. But like, you can already look at this now. I mean, this is just so much nicer as a shot. And we get some nice subsurface here. And so the next thing that we're gonna do, of course, is like, the next time we gonna do something like this. You see, like we're gonna add some fog to it, which will be more volumetric, of course. We also gonna use our exposure a bit more and maybe go like into something like this. So do you see like how nicely we get like an image now? So I think this looks a lot more pleasing, and now actually the blue here is distracting. It doesn't look that great. I mean, I think this is a very nice shot. And on top of this, we're gonna add the Dark Souls flavor. So on top of this, we're gonna add the grading and all these things, you know, like even if we just go into the white balance and we're just gonna do something like this, you know, make it more warm, and yeah, you know, like all these things, and we're just gonna like desaturate it a bit more and all those kind of things. So you can see how the image is already starting to come together in a different way. And of course we need to have auto exposure to adjust, so we go basically down to this. So this is all the stuff that we're gonna set up and that we're gonna tweak. All right, that's done for the next session. Thank you so much for following with this session for today. And again, if you want to support me, please head to Patreon or check the PayPal me link down in the comments. I'm happy for any support I can get. But again, like the videos will still stay the same and the way they are. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. Have a good time, and see you again with the next session. Bye bye.